Hey everybody, Aaron here again. Just wanted to get together and go through some comics that I got this week. My good friends at E&J Boutique up in Brooklyn, New York, sent me a box of comics, and they're all supposed to be pre-1980 stuff, so I was really looking forward to this. They were just great. I had ordered a box, and I got my box, and I started going through, and I was like, well, these are all 90s, 2000s, some 80s stuff. There was like one thing from 78. There's some cool books, and I have another video up about that. And I messaged them. I said, I'd asked for pre-1980 stuff, and they're like, you didn't get it? And they said they had packaged two boxes and put them out to be shipped, and one box got labeled for one guy, and one box got labeled for me. And the box that got labeled for the other guy just happened to be all the cool stuff that I was looking forward to getting. So they said, oh, we'll make that right. So they sent me another box, and I've already opened it here, but some pretty cool stuff. So we'll see what's in here, go through book by book, and just see what kind of stuff there is. They get new books in all the time. You got to go up and check them out. They have a great new store that opened up, I think, end of last year, and they have all kinds of things. So you definitely have to check them out. I'll get you more information in the description of the video, and you can check them out. Also, you can check us out at comicbook.com, our website, plus Comic Book on YouTube. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're all over the place. So you can definitely check us out, all those places. And you can see I've got my wall of pops building up behind me again. I used to have a pretty big collection, kind of got rid of it over the last couple of years, and I've started rebuilding. So I got some neat ones this week with the GameStop exclusives. The Freddy Krueger 8-bit was really neat. And Jason Voorhees. That was like the hypothermic edition or something. Too much swimming in Camp Crystal Lakes Lake, I guess. So some pretty neat stuff there. I pick those up all the time. Sometimes when I get a big lot of pops, I'll do a pop show. So you can go back through on Comic Book on YouTube and check out some of the shows where I've done some pops unboxings. And I do, all of the different mystery crates throughout the year. In fact, I've got a couple of BAM boxes to open. And we got the Culture Fly Supernatural box around Christmas time that we still have to do an unboxing for. So we're a little behind in the boxes right now, but we'll get those caught up. But for now, we're talking about E&J Boutique. Great bunch of folks. Really, really appreciate them. And they do a good job of packing comics. You got some great packing paper that I'll actually save because I may reuse that. Throw that in a bin over here. So we'll see what's in here. Right away on top, kind of neat, there was this right in the top of the box. And it has Dark Horse Comics, 30 years, signed by Brian Smith, right there. So it's a print. And then there's a book inside. I really don't know what this is. I'm going to check it out. Open it up. Must have been something cool they picked up, and they just thought they'd throw it in there for me. It is ABC News presents Medaya Mom. That's from Marvel. Then it says Dalibor Talajic is a Croatian comic book artist who was just 18 years old when Yugoslavia broke up and the region descended into war. He was trained as a musician at the Music Academy in the country's capital of Zagreb, and worked as a clarinet teacher for nearly a decade before committing to his childhood dream of becoming a professional comic book artist. His work was published in several prominent Croatian magazines, including the legendary Zagreb fanzine Endem, before entering the U.S. market in 2005. In 2009, Talajic began working almost exclusively for Marvel and has enjoyed commercial success and critical acclaim for his works such as Five Ronin, Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, everybody's heard of that one, Ghost Rider, and the X-Men. He lives in Zagreb with his family. So this is a book. It's pretty cool art. You can see some of the neat artwork in there. And it just, I'm not sure. I'll have to read it, see what it's all about. So very cool. But that's neat to get that, and then the signed print from Brian Smith. So pretty cool way to start the box. See if I can get these put back away. All right. So there's the first thing. Next is issue number 2 of Mad Balls. Pretty sure I have issue 1 and issue 4 and issue 3. I guess there's a 3-part limited series. So I'm pretty sure I have a couple of those. But this is Miss Tick the Mystic. don't know if you guys remember Mad Balls. You may not. You may not be old enough to remember Mad Balls, but they were these ugly balls that were like squishy, and in fact, they advertised them on the back because back in the '80s, some of these comics were nothing but a big advertisement for toys. Mad Balls was one of those, but it got its own 3-issue miniseries, so it's kind of neat. Let's see, a pretty good copy of Tales of the Legion of Superheroes, number 346. And it's got the Emerald Empress there on the cover. It's pretty neat. Power Pack number 22. I think I have like 5 copies of this. This is cool, especially if she ever gets her own Netflix show. Dazzler number 20. And that's an older one. 1982. Pretty cool. I like that cover. Splitting Image number 2. This was kind of Image's parody comic of all of their books, so it had some neat fun stuff in it. I think I have number 1 somewhere. Here is The Mighty Thor number 463 with Her, I think's her name, Her. And that was an Infinity Crusade crossover, so that was after the Infinity Gauntlet. Then you had Adam Warlock and Her or She or whatever her name was. That were looking for the Infinity Gems again. Shadow Riders number 1. This is interesting. This is from the Marvel UK Comics. It's pretty cool. It's got Cable in it. It's got a neat raised cover. It's kind of cool. A lot of this stuff back in the 80s, when they did the UK books, they crossed over a lot of the X-Men characters, Cable, and I know Wolverine was in a lot of them, or Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde. They had Hell's Angel, Motormouth, Death's Head. Death's Head had Wolverine in it a lot. So just a lot of the UK books are trying to draw on the regular Marvel characters to make them more popular. So some neat stuff. We got from Epic, Tomorrow Nights, number 1. It's always kind of cool to get some of these older number 1 books and read them and go, oh, that was pretty cool. I wish I would have looked at that. Here's an Iron Man 256. So far, nothing too old, but definitely stuff from the early 80s, some 90s stuff. Suicide Squad, The Phoenix Gambit. There's Solo Avengers starring Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. An old Dr. Fate number 2. Maybe not old, but older. Power Pack 21. And I have 21 and 22 in this box. And I have like 5 copies of both of those. Dreadstar number 37 from 1988. And that's another, well, that's actually First Comics. That's cool. Dreadstar was a pretty neat series. Ragman number 4 from DC. And if you're watching Arrow at all, the last season, I think, Ragman was on there. It's kind of cool. So you may have heard of that character. Detective Comics number 611. It's an older book. Batman. Looks like Alan Grant was the writer. Snow and Ice Part 2, Bird of Ill Omen. Here is House 2, the second story, issue number 1. Those were pretty good movies. I don't know if you ever saw them. They were old horror, kind of campy horror movies. House and House 2. House was pretty funny. The guy, I think it's the guy from Greatest American Hero, the actor, I don't remember his name, but he goes to this house owned by his old uncle or something, eccentric uncle, and basically the house is kind of like possessed, but it's like a doorway to another dimension, and there's some pretty cool Ray Harryhausen type special effects in there. Pretty neat stuff. Punisher War Journal number 44. Here's a Daredevil from the Tree of Knowledge storyline. Daredevil 329. I don't think I have this one. Let's see. Another older Batman. The Many Deaths of Batman, number 435. When I say older, I mean like, pre-1990 Batman. Some Night Quest. Batman 505. There's The Phantom Stranger, number 1. Pretty sure I used to have this book, too. Millennium Week 1, number 1. I have that somewhere. Tend to take them out of some of these bags and put them in newer bags. Hey, the New Universe, Spitfire and the Troubleshooters. This is a pretty good book. I don't know if you guys ever got a chance to read the New Universe series back in the 80s and early 90s. They were fun. It was a whole new universe, thus the title. But they were, you had Justice, you had DP7, you had Night Mask, Spitfire and the Troubleshooters, and Kickers Inc., and I think there was one more, like a soldier one. I can't remember what that was called. But there was some neat stories. You know, DP7 was great because it was almost like an alternate X-Men kind of place where these people had been either experimented on or something, and they all had different powers. There was one guy who was really fast, like the Blur kind of thing, but he also, just like the Flash, had to consume a lot of calories in order to survive. There was some really different characters that were pretty neat. So it was a good series. Some of them got really weird near the end, though. So, Sheena, number 1, the movie adaptation. I don't know. Didn't even know there was a movie. Huh. Here's, speaking of New Universe, here's Cyforce, annual number 1. Talking about toy comic books again. Air Raiders, number 1, from back in the, when is this? I don't even know. It's got to be an 80s book. 87. And, again, advertising Popples on the back. A lot of toy advertisements throughout. Candy and bubblegum and that kind of thing. The Once and Future Thor. Thor number 384. Let's see. Cosmic Boy, number 1. Part of his miniseries, spinning off from the Legion of Superheroes. Another New Universe book, Starbrand, number 1. Now, you may remember Starbrand from New Avengers, not in the not too recent past, but a couple years ago, there was a whole storyline that they were doing with the New Avengers, and they had they had Starbrand, and he had like a brand on his hand, but he was very powerful. It was pretty cool. Fallen Angels, number 6. Warlock from New Mutants, along with, looks like Sunspot and Boom Boom there. And then issue 5 of that same series. Oh, very cool. Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, number 1. Now, it does say it's the Halloween Comic Fest version of this comic, so it's a different issue, but it's a reprint of the first issue, and it's dated 2014. But it looks like all the same book, just some different advertisements and such in it. So that's kind of cool. The World of Krypton, number 1. Superman book from back in the 80s, 1987. Here's one of Swamp Thing, number 133. It's got a neat cover on it, like a Killer Dandelion or Killer Daisy. Continuing right along, there's 129 of Swamp Thing. Hey, here's one I haven't seen for a long time. There was and you probably have seen the more recent series, but there was a TV series, mini series of movies back in the day called V. And it was for the visitors, and these aliens landed, and they wanted to help humankind, and as typical, everybody's like, ooh, but then there were people who were like, oh, hey, we got to be careful. And, the people ended up being lizard people who ate humans, and they were capturing humans and taking them back to their planet for, meals. So it was pretty neat. This is the first issue of that miniseries. Another copy of Millennium number 1. Another copy, and then first issue of Strike Force Morituri. So that was from the 80s as well. Neat. All right, some cool stuff. Nothing really pre-1980, but still some good books. And, hey, they sent me these as extra books on top of the box that they sent me before. So that was pretty cool. I appreciate that. Again, folks at E&J Boutique up in Brooklyn, New York, you can check them out on Facebook. If you just search E&J Boutique, you'll find them, and you just message them, tell them, hey, you'd like to get a box. They sell 2 different boxes. A small box for $45, a large box for $60, and that includes shipping. So you get a pretty good bundle of comics with that kind of an investment. So it's fun stuff. I always like to just open a whole box of comics and go through and see what kind of cool stuff's in there. You never know. You find a gem here and there. If nothing else, it just gives you something really cool to read. So check that out. Again, I'm Aaron from Comic Booked. You can check us out at comicbooked.com, and that's booked.com, not book.com. We have our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of stuff out there, so you're bound to find us somewhere. You can check us out at certain conventions as well. We'll be at the 4-State Pop Comic Con up in Hagerstown coming up in March this year. March 25th and 26th, I think it is. So you got to check that out. We've got some cool guests. We'll have the guy who's the voice of Gur from Invader Zim, and Gage, the kid from that movie, the scary one with the cemetery where they bury the pets. Oh yeah, Pet Cemetery. So pretty cool guests. And then of course there's a bunch of vendors and a lot of comic artists and writers and just all kinds of stuff at those. A lot of cosplayers. So that's pretty neat. All right, if you've got questions or anything, please leave them in the comments. Definitely subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends. We really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. And go out there and read more comics.